Okay, moving along, we're gonna focus on getting in some of the actual scenery into this composition a bit. So we'll need to move. I've realized I need to move the background down a bit so it's up, matching up with the bottom of this layer here. So we get kind of the flat plane look from the perspective we're looking at the lighthouse from this level, but we see this stuff in the background, so it's kind of giving that effect, which is great. Next up, we can add, or at least start work on the houses, and I think those are going to take shape. We'll probably stem one house from the other, but just modify a few things about it. That's just kind of an easy way to get things rolling. So I'll start with the triangle. And before I do that, I'm going to group some of this stuff so it's not in our way. So one thing I want to do first is, this is looking like it needs to be scooched over a tad. The gradient itself in particular needs to come over, so we can modify that real quick by doing this approach. I use an elliptical gradient on this layer. It's kind of a neat effect that you can really control in a different way, so we can increase the spread of that. And it's using a few different colors just to give that effect, plus quite a bit of noise, because we're emulating water here, but I don't want it to look like exactly like water because it's kind of a bay, because usually lighthouses, of course, are near ocean or bodies of water. Okay, so let's work on the houses I keep talking about. Let's get a triangle started. We'll kind of go with this approach, kind of a skewed triangle, and I don't really have preset colors for these. It's just going to be kind of what we feel like looks the best. So it may match my original composition, it may not. So bear with me there. But we're going to do just a bit of tweaks to this one. Kind of make it a little less tall. And I want it to be kind of a purplish color, but lighter. Maybe we'll use our original gradient we were using on these purples and just toy them back some. So I'll go up to the fill actually. All right, so then I want a new shape that's going to be the result of this one. I think I need to convert this to curves though, so I'm going to grab this point, bring it in some, because we need this certain perspective here. And I'm going to just pen out this next shape. So we're going to start, it needs to have, like it's going away from us, so it needs to kind of point down a bit. And then we'll extend the roof to come down and back, and then back up. It's not always easy to draw a shape in perfect perspective, but that's kind of the route I'm going to take with this, is kind of using by eye. You're welcome to use a grid or something like that, but to me, I think that kind of takes away some of the creativeness, unless you're going for that really exact look, which is okay. Okay, so we're going to use our base orange gradient, but just kind of tweak how much of the vibrancy is in the play. And then we'll create the outer wall on this side, so we just need a rectangle. And this is going to be skewed as well, so I'm going to make the basic shape, bring it up to the edges we're after, and then we'll convert this to curves. And this wall is going to be a little taller on the end. Okay. We'll move these all the way to the top. Very subtle contour there. And this is going to be very similar to this color, so I'm going to actually probably use it, but it needs to be a bit darker, since that's what we're after. And a lot of these colors are going to be just a la carte, so I can't promise they'll be included, but you can kind of mimic what I'm after if you want to follow. Just want it to be that same shade, but darker on one end, especially. Okay. And we might increase this triangle to go off the edge a bit because I want the roof to appear like it's over top of this. And this shape could probably come in a bit. And then we could do this outer wall. It's going to be this orange color though, because we're thinking of the light coming in from the right here. So we'll kind of do the same thing with the pen tool, I think, and make that happen. Sometimes it's easier just to plot these points with your pen than it would be a typical shape, because you'll have to go and modify the shape a ton just to get it to work with what you're going for. And it's already a curves layer at that point too, so you don't have to do so much work to get it to be a curve. So we'll modify this to be kind of like that, using that gradient to that effect. And then I want one more shape that's kind of following this particular path. That's going to be a brighter red, just to kind of give it a little accent point. We'll close that path, and we'll start with our base color here, but I want to tweak it to be more of a red in the end. And our gradient direction's off. I'll go ahead and modify that. And this could probably even be a solid color if you wanted to make it one. And I'm going to make this point come down just a tad. Give it a little perspective there. Okay, so that's that edge of that roof. This could probably come over just like the other one and move forward. Maybe back a little bit more. And we'll move this back. So something like that. We can get this perfect if we want, like that. So that's a start. And this house is eventually going to be covered up by some bushes, so we won't even see the base. So it doesn't need to be perfectly proportioned to this flat surface, even though it would make more sense if it were. But we'll see how it looks without first. Then while we're at it, let's add, I'm going to ungroup it just so it's easier to work with, and add some windows. And these can vary. They don't need to be perfect either. I'm going to have one that's lit, and we'll just toy with the gradient. Maybe you have the dark be at the top, so it looks like the room's lit. And you could skew this to kind of align to the proportion of that square a bit, since it's a little perspective. It's going to snap though, so we want it to be kind of a little less perfect in that regard. I might turn off snapping for a second. Actually needs to probably go the other way now that I look at it. Just a little bit. And then we'll create one more bigger window here. This one won't be lit. So we'll kind of use just a dark version of this. We'll sample it maybe and then just go slightly darker. I might undo this a bit. Shrink it. And one more that's going to be at the far end and considerably smaller. And then while I'm looking at it, this outer edge at the very end should probably come off to be a little more realistic. And we can mask this to that curve too, just so it's always relative to it. Okay, that's looking better. And then I put a doorway on the front of this one. We might even bring this down flat. Same with this one. Let's see how it looks flat. That way we can butt it up to the bottom here. Yeah, it looks fine, I think. So let's make a door. This was gonna be just the square. Right in the middle, I think, is fine. And then we can add a gradient to that, or base gradient we've been using, but just toy with the positioning. Probably come down pretty far. So the base dark color is what we're really looking at. You could even decrease that color and make it even darker. Maybe I will. Almost a brownish tone, like that. And I think that looks okay. We might skew it ever so slightly. Maybe increase the width too. And then to add some depth and make this look a little more realistic, I'm going to duplicate that square, bring it all the way in, and then make it one of these dark blues so it looks like there's a edge to it. And maybe modify the color to be dark, but not like completely dark, like brown. But then go over to this, kind of in the same neighborhood. And this wall, I feel like this whole house is a little too tall. So move that down and move the roof down. And the shape with it needs to come down. Okay, so again, doesn't have to be perfect. I think it's just capturing the essence. The focal point of this illustration is the light tower, so I just want these to supplement what that is. So I'm gonna make this the same blue, I think, as that one. I like that one. And in fact, I'll add that color. We'll add a little like accent to the roof here. It's just kind of another shape with the tower piece that's going to just be another supplement to the roof shape itself. So we'll start with the square, and it's going to be our base gradient. We'll modify that to be a little more what we're after. In fact, I used the wrong one there. I think I need the old one. There we go. This one will be tricky because we want it to kind of have the same perspective, so we almost need to modify the shape to wrap to the roof the right way. And in doing that, you need to skew it a bit. So I'll create one more shape that's going to be our like darker purple. It's going to be the shadow behind this shape, but it will go right to the left of it and be smaller in size. And it's going to go up to the edge of the roof right there. So let's zoom in a little bit. Make it a little smaller, I think. And we'll move this whole bit up. So if you're looking at this line, assuming you like the way it looks, you can kind of follow that with this contour line and try to match it the way things look aligned in the end. Yeah, it looks okay. And then I wanted to add the roof portion. So I created another square, and this is going to be more of a red. It could be a flat red, barn red. And I want to skew this shape. So I'll grab it and look for the handles that look like that, and then skew it like this quite a bit, and I'll shrink it down. And then we need to contort it a little bit. So I want it to end like this. We'll need to align it to the same kind of line perspective there. And then we can even increase, we'll use this to do that shadow. I'm going to add a point, come up to this point, and then we'll come up to here, Add one more point here just to kind of make it look like there's an underlying roof to this little one. And this is a lot of trial and error, so if it's challenging to get to this point, that's perfectly acceptable. It takes me forever sometimes just to get a perfect line in order with this, so don't fear. Like that, I'm not 100% wild about, but I think I can tweak it enough to get it to where I think I'll like it enough. Okay, so with that done, we can tweak till tomorrow, but I'll leave that alone for now. And then we want to add a few more shapes just to give some of the shingles, or I think these would be vents, as you would see in attics. But this needs to come all the way to the top. We need to, of course, turn it to the way we want. Or in fact, these are just going to be skewed just a bit, and then we can toy with the gradient to be the direction we're after. And I think I did dark at the top, lighter at the bottom. So we'll definitely skew this more, and we'll just kind of follow the line. Command J like that. Not sure I'm digging that. It needs to be skewed a lot more. Okay, so that's one house. There's, of course, more we could do to it. I think I'm going to leave it alone for now, just so we can continue on. I'm going to group it, and then I think it needs to kind of butt up to the side of the lighthouse to give it some real perspective there. What is bugging me still, though, like I said, I'm going to leave it alone. It's this roof pitch. The very end of it isn't quite aligned the way I like, so I think I'm going to scoop it down some. Same for this splash of red here. Come to the very edge. Just wasn't quite aligning right. I think that's a lot better. Just that little bit. So great. This color, it's a little too purple. I think I'll go down to black. Kind of a grayish black purple color. Should do. And on this bottom piece of the lighthouse, I can toy with this to make it look like there's actually a shadow probably behind the scenes from the house. It's like casting from the house, which is what we're after. We want it to be kind of dark behind that house to amplify the house. So just that little bit of change makes quite a bit of difference in the tonalities and stuff and lighting and everything going on in that image. Kind of go to a lighter edge there. Okay, I'm going to settle with that. And let's go ahead and just basically duplicate that house and come down behind everything and move it up in place and then scale it back. I want it to be a kind of a different, very similar but different looking house in the end. So we're going to imitate it in such a way. The same thing applies to this shadow effect. So I'm going to add it, since we added it on the lighthouse here, I'm going to add it to the house here because the house is going to cascade shadows as well. So on that edge, the far edge, grab the gradient tool, this edge, I want it to actually be the darkest. So on the original composition, I added a section to this house, so it has kind of another compartment, and it's just a basic, almost shed looking piece. So I'm going to add that now. Come out here with this, down to the baseline. Come back, and this is going to be our dark bluish color. So we added a doorway, like I said, and it'll be just this rectangle that feeds into that. Will be our base gradient again, and we need to move this up, and it's a little large, so come down with it. I'll adjust that gradient. Okay. And for grins, I added one more top piece like this on the main roof. So that's going to look like this. Probably grab this shape just to have it. And Command C, Command V on a Mac. And the proportion is going to be a little different. So we're going to make this the same shape, but cascade down a different look and feel for what is below. So we'll draw a rectangle. This is going to be like a dark blue like we've been using. It'll go beneath that. We're going to have to tweak this, but I think it's all right to work with. And then on the left sides, it's ironically a white piece. So we're going to work with the rectangle, start from there, and make that kind of a lighter piece. I'll just convert it to curves because I want to make it an odd abstract kind of shape like this. So these aren't butting up perfectly to the baseline, and that's quite all right. We're going to add some plant life to kind of make that look a little better, as well as just kind of refine things in the very next video. So I will do that coming up. Until then, I might refine just a little bit of stuff in the meantime, just to save some time. But all in all, we're taking shape. So in the next video, let's get to the trees and the bushes and then kind of finalize everything with this water.